If you're like me, and you're just a longtime fan of Mario and Nintendo, you may have quite a bit of excitement going into this Mario Bros. Movie. I did. But when the critical reviews came out and we saw the score on Rotten Tomatoes for the Mario Bros. Movie, there was some level of disappointment and concern. Not enough to stop me from watching the movie, because I figured that critics might see it a little bit differently than I. But now, after I've seen the movie, I've just gotten back, I have to say, the critics are wrong. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is great, and that is what we're talking about today.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we're talking about the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Now, just to let you know, I'm going to focus on non-spoiler details first, and then I'll get into the spoiler stuff, talking about theories and different things that came up that excite me, that suggest more things to come, and just the overall lore of the world and what it suggests, but we'll be breaking it all down today. However, before we do, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th. So if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because then we might just make it. Now on to my thoughts for the movie. Last I checked, Rotten Tomatoes has the Mario movie at 54%, which is not considered to be an amazing movie. But I noticed that there were a few other movies that were also rated low on Rotten Tomatoes, like Madagascar, or even Mewtwo Strikes Back, the first Pokemon movie, which to me is a masterpiece, even though, according to Rotten Tomatoes, it's an abomination. And personally, my opinion, when it comes to critical reviews, when it comes to movies, it isn't really the best way to get an understanding if a movie is good, because it kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you're going into this Mario movie, which is clearly meant to be a family-friendly kind of movie, a fun adventure, and you're expecting like this massive allegory that gives you incredible revelations upon life and is deep with metaphors and allusions and foreshadowing that's going to win all sorts of Oscars and awards, that's not what this movie's about. This movie is a celebration of the history of Mario and Nintendo. It's a love letter to fans, but it's also a fun, enjoyable adventure that everyone can be a part of. It's a roller coaster. That's what I thought the movie was going to be, and that is exactly what we got. And it was incredibly enjoyable for me, and in some ways, it exceeded my expectations. So let me talk about one way that absolutely exceeded my expectations, and that is the voice acting. Watching the movie, at least when it comes to Mario, I never thought twice about it. When it comes to Luigi, for a brief little moment, but shortly after I got used to it quite quick. Peach was perfect, Toad was perfect. I've heard some complain about Cranky Kong, but actually I thought it was fine. Wasn't what I would expect, but it was fine, just a slightly different take, but it was still good. And Donkey Kong, I'll say, at first, it was a bit off-putting, but that's just because of the kind of personality that they've provided for Donkey Kong. Someone who's fun-loving and overconfident and strong and super popular. But deep down, there's a little bit more to him. And overall, I just found myself falling in love with the characters all over again. I was excited to see these characters working and living alongside of each other. I forgot about the voice actors and I just saw them as characters. And I think that's what it's about, when you can immerse yourself into a story and not think about the outside world. The voices of the characters fit in perfectly. I would even argue it was exceptional. They did an incredible job. Now when it comes to story, the opening scene, maybe I was slightly disappointed. Not because it was bad, it was fine. But they basically showed us the opening scene in some of the trailers. I'm not gonna say exactly what if you haven't seen the movie yet. But it was still good. It was still good, it was still fun. And I was excited to see what happened beyond. And I'll get to that when I get to the spoiler half of this discussion. But overall, the story, again, it wasn't meant to be a deep story. It was a fun roller coaster story. It was one scene from another to another to another, very quick, very fast-paced, 90-minute film. So you could argue maybe it could have been a bit longer, but honestly, having watched the entire thing, I feel that they put in everything they needed to put in, and I was satisfied with the overall adventure and everything we got to see. They covered all the bases, and I had a great time with it. There were so many Nintendo video game references throughout different franchises, all over, It was amazing to see, so many subtle references. The music, there were so many musical tracks from so many different Nintendo games, Mario and Donkey Kong, and it was just a huge nostalgia trip. So if you're a big Mario fan, if you're a big Donkey Kong fan, if you're a big Mario Kart fan, you're going to find a lot here that you're going to notice, and you're like, oh wow, this and that. And not even just like Mario and Donkey Kong, but also just a Nintendo fan. There's a lot of classic Nintendo game references throughout, and it's special. Point is, if you're looking for a fun, adventurous movie that's family friendly, that pays its respects to its roots and its history with tons of references, and is a beautiful nostalgia trip, this is absolutely the movie for you. But now let me go on to spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you have been warned. I want to first speak on how they honored Charles Martinet, the voice actor for Mario in the Mario games. We hear him a few times, there's this character that looks like an older Mario, we see him a few times, we get to hear that original Mario voice, and it's lovely. So they definitely paid their proper respects there. He had a legitimate role. It wasn't just a small single glimpse, there was a couple glimpses, and I'm really happy they put him in there. But I'm also happy with how they went about with the lore for Mario and Luigi. We got to see their family. I was surprised to see that they had this whole Italian family in Brooklyn. I loved what they did with that. I love the characters. I love how they gave Mario and Luigi this background, and they showed this bond of brothers sticking it through together, trying to change their destiny. They wanted to start their own business, but their father wasn't fully supportive, so you have that storyline there that pulls at the heartstrings, and you see what they're coming from. You see what they're doing. Humble roots, something you can root for, and I love the lore that they established here. I do have some questions about the dog, like why was the dog so aggressive, but I guess they just needed some sort of reason for why they had to have a failed plumbing job that eventually led to them going out on this bigger adventure with this huge plumbing problem leading them to the eventual Mushroom Kingdom. So there are some minor plot contrivances that don't seem to make total sense, but considering the fact that it's a family-friendly movie, I can overlook it because it's more about the fun adventure, and they wanted to help out Brooklyn, they saw this problem, they fall down a hole, they find a magical pipe, and there you go. But I honestly love the setup. Maybe in part because I have my own brother who's about my age, so the whole relationship that Mario and Luigi have, it's a similar relationship that I have with my own brother, so perhaps it made this movie a bit more meaningful for me in terms of the story, because it did pull at my own personal heartstrings a bit, and it related to this effort to want to save the brother. But on the note of the brother, I do want to talk about the Luigi's Mansion references, because they were there. They had the Luigi's Mansion music, they had some spooky areas that Luigi was exploring, and it was all well done. Pretty much every character met my expectations. The one character that really surprised me though was Bowser. Not in terms of voice acting, because I already said earlier on that I think the voice acting across the board was great in this movie. But when it comes to the character building with Bowser, and how they described him as this character that's in love with Peach that wants to marry her, checks out. It gives us a reason explaining why he's always after Peach, and they did kind of play off of the whole story from Mario Odyssey, how he was trying to marry her, so that's fine. There's tons of references for the different Mario games. I appreciated that actually. But seeing these bouts where he was playing a piano, that was interesting. It took me a moment to get used to it, but I've come to appreciate his musical talent, which relates to Jack Black, who has incredible musical talent. He's playing as Bowser, so it did fit. So while it wasn't what I quite expected, I do appreciate the characterization. And that's kind of something I appreciated for the movie. Even though everything was fast-paced, they took time to offer some bit of extra lore for the 6 main characters: Bowser, Luigi, Donkey Kong, Toad, Peach, and Mario. With Bowser, there's this whole artistic element where he plays piano, and he's also tragically in love with someone he can never have, and then of course he's also evil. But it was really nice to see his motivations more clearly portrayed than ever before. And then going back to Luigi, seeing this relationship he has with his brother, this respect he has for his brother, how his brother is always there to protect him, putting himself first, and how he also believes in his brother and wants to fight for his brother as well, that's powerful. And then the same applies for Mario, how he cares for his brother and how he's always there to protect him and he'll do everything he can for him. But at the same time, he has this goal and ambition to be something great. He wants to be more than just average. He wants to push himself beyond what he is, being treated as just a little man. and I appreciate that. He is an underdog story, or some people might say as the true American dream, given that he's an Italian plumber in Brooklyn who's young and trying to find his way. Like, I appreciate that background, that story. And then for Toad, or Captain Toad, because there were times they used the Captain Toad theme for him. Maybe he's heading that direction to become Captain Toad. It was great to see how this particular Toad stood out beyond all the other Toads. All the other Toads are cowards or weaklings, but Captain Toad, I'm calling him Captain Toad, he dares for adventure. He dares to be a hero to protect Peach when everyone else runs away. I appreciate how he has this ambition to be more than just an average Toad. And then for Peach, they made her this badass, which is really cool, but a little lore detail that kind of blew my mind was how they pointed out that her history isn't from the Mushroom Kingdom. She came from another land, like Mario, another human. So she has this mysterious background that we don't know about, when before I always just assumed that she is the princess of the Mushroom Kingdom and that's just where her people are from, but no. Her roots are a mystery. She's from another world, and that was an interesting thing to see, while at the same time it was cool to see her personality, her badass nature. She gets it done, and I actually liked that. I thought that was cool. I didn't think it was in any way disrespecting her history as a princess, and the way it was done, it did not bother me that they didn't really have this trope of Mario saving the princess, although she was in a bit of a bind, and then Mario and Donkey Kong do come in to save the day right at the end. So there is still a little bit of that. And actually, now that I think about it, there was another moment at the very end where Mario and Luigi worked together, which was very powerful to see, against Bowser, and they had this epic battle where Mario and Luigi saved all of Brooklyn, including Peach. So Mario was definitely still the hero saving the princess, but at the same time, Peach was her own powerful character in her own way. And then for Donkey Kong, he wants to prove that he's more than just a brute, and he loves his dad, Cranky Kong, and he wants to prove himself to his father. Seeing that, something we never see from the games, that was cool. But then also seeing his personality being this super confident, very fun-loving character that really vibes off all the other Kongs, that was cool. But what really got me excited was this relationship between Mario and Donkey Kong. Seeing the rivalry with the battle, how it ended, how Mario saved him, and how Donkey Kong was like, I hate you, but in a very fun rival kind of way. Seeing that relationship, seeing how they had to work together during the ambush and how they found a way to come back as a team and fight together to storm Bowser's castle, that was cool. Seeing them together, it gave me goosebumps. It was a special moment. And I could really see how Donkey Kong could have his own story, his own movie, as has been rumored. And also, we did see Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong had a voice, which was nice to see. And there were the other Kongs, like Funky Kong and Dixie Kong. So there were tons of references. Oh, on the note of references, I didn't want to bring them up earlier because of spoilers, but I saw a Wrecking Crew reference, a Kid Icarus reference, an F-Zero reference, a Punch-Out reference, a original Donkey Kong reference, Jumpman, the Mario Brothers. It was amazing to see all this Nintendo stuff. I loved it. There's so much here, and I really appreciated it all. The characters, the fun, oh, the Mario Kart stuff. Mario Kart is all over the place, but I loved it. I loved how there were just so many different Mario Kart references. It was exciting, it was fun, it was badass, it was cool. I will say, is they use a lot of music that isn't video game music, which, okay, they were solid musical choices that were very known songs that I appreciated. I was just kind of expecting 100% Nintendo music. There is still plenty of Nintendo music that is still there, and I loved every time there was something new, like when they had Donkey Kong music, the Mario Bros music, the Underworld music. There was a subtle touch when they were in the under parts of Brooklyn looking through the pipes, and it was like the Underworld level 1, 2. That was cool. Overall, I enjoyed the music. It was just a bit of a surprise when they used non-Nintendo songs, but it worked. Most movies use non-Nintendo songs, so it was fine, but it wasn't done in a distasteful, cringy kind of way for me. It was serviceable. I enjoyed the moments. This movie had characters that I loved, tons of nostalgic references, a fun adventure that never gave me a moment to be bored or wander. It was fast-paced, it put in everything I expected. But one thing, we saw a brief glimpse of Yoshi's Island with the different Yoshis, but I never got to enjoy Yoshi, who's a character that I think is a pretty prominent character that would have been great to see in the movie. Wasn't there until the very, very, very end with the post-credits scene where there's the egg and it hatches and it goes black, but you hear Yoshi, you hear the voice, and it was cool. It was the one thing I literally said during the credits while I was waiting with my family. They came with me to watch the movie. I was like, there's one thing this movie needed, and it was Yoshi, and then they showed Yoshi, and there it was. And yeah, the post-credit scene does imply that there's gonna be another movie, and Yoshi's gonna be a big part of it. So it does make sense, and there are more Mario things to come. They could do a Luigi's Mansion spin-off if they really wanted to. I'm not expecting that, but the Donkey Kong one I can definitely see. I was hoping to see some sort of crazy Zelda reference, because that was a rumor. Didn't see any of that, but there is dialogue that suggests that there could be more out there. Princess Peach does say that there's a big universe out there, or there's tons of universes out there, something along those lines. And then we don't know too much about Peach's history. And then there's also the Luma that pops up and says something about the void, and that could hint at some Mario Galaxy elements in the future as well. So there's tons of potential for sequels and spin-offs and other Nintendo franchises finding a way in there. Ultimately, I think this movie was amazing for what it's supposed to be. It's not an incredible allegory that's a message on life that's going to win all sorts of awards. It's a family-friendly movie that pays respects to Nintendo history. If you're a Nintendo fan, it's gonna hit you in all the nostalgia feels. It's a fun ride from beginning to end. It has a lot filled in there, and it opens up for a lot more stories in the future. And if you're not a Nintendo fan, maybe it's just kind of like another fun kids movie. I enjoyed Madagascar, so it's kind of like that, and that's fine. Honestly, my opinion, I think if you're a critic going into this, you should review it for what it is. But, you know, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.